Hello everyone, Tekken 8 has been out for about a day and a half right now and I've been playing it pretty much non-stop. I've only stopped to sleep, done a lot of testing, had a lot of fun. This game is amazing so far, although very aggressive, so I guess Namco have succeeded in making it that. Now, one of the most fun parts of jumping into a new version of your favorite fighting game is checking out how your favorite characters have changed and finding all these new cool tools and things that they can do. And for the most part, characters have gotten crazy cool and crazy powerful, and they can do things that seem downright broken by the paradigm of Tekken 7, right? If you took these characters and put them in 7, they would be way too good. But it's part of this giant power creep that Namco are doing, trying to push the entire game in a more aggressive direction, right? So for example, Leo, if you try out Leo right now, you have much higher combo damage, crazy mix-ups, new safe mid strings. It's just so much more power in general. But then you get to Zafina and it's really confusing for me. When I tried her for the first time, I was like, what am I missing? Because as far as I can tell, this version of Zafina is significantly weaker than her incarnation in Tekken 7, which is doubly a problem because, you know, how strong you are in a fighting game is relative to the rest of the cast, and if the rest of the cast are all power crept to a completely new level, and you're worse than you were in the last game, it's not a good thing. Now, I might be missing something here. Maybe there are hidden cool new things that she can do that we haven't discovered yet. If you know of any of them, then let me know, because I'd be very interested to know what I am missing here. But as far as I can tell, she is genuinely very, very, very weak in this game. I haven't tested all characters, but as far as I can tell, one of the weakest, if not the weakest character in the game. And if that sounds sad, she's still cool. She can still do a bunch of cool new things as well. I'm going to talk about some of the buffs so that it's not all negative. But let's talk about why I think she's so weak in this game, right? So, first of all, and this is the only ambiguous point that can be argued, the movement, right? As far as I can tell, Zafina's backdash is not as good as it was in the previous game. I don't know that for a fact. Maybe the backdash just feels different because, you know, the input is different, it's a new game, whatever. But she had the best backdash in the game in 7. As far as I can tell, because I'm playing Elisa right now, I feel like Elisa has a better backdash. Maybe it just feels better to me. At some point, somebody's going to do a measurement of this and we'll know for a fact whether or not the backdash is genuinely weaker. But that was a core part of her strength. And as far as I can tell, it's been nerfed, but we don't know again. Grain of salt. But everything else, I can tell you for a fact, has become a lot weaker. So let's jump in and talk about why by looking at these moves. So first of all, the way you balance things in Tekken, right, is you add a property or strength to something, and usually you take something else away, and there's this trade-off, right? That's how you have to balance things. If something is duckable, it might be safe. If it's mid, it should probably be punishable. Things like that. Well, Zafina doesn't have a standard 15-frame launcher. She's traditionally only had this down 4-2, which is 16 frames. So quite slow. And for fast launchers like this, 1 frame of impact speed really matters, especially for punishment. So to make up for that, they've given her good range on this launcher and high crush properties. It is punishable. So, you know, that's important to know as well. But then the other thing they did was they gave her this down 4-3 4-string for 49 damage. So not a full combo, but, you know, some damage that you could get for 14. This has been nerfed and it now impacts at 15, which means that not only does Zafina not have a punisher for 14 anymore, she doesn't have a single knockdown move before we get to 15 frames. She can knock you down at 10, at 11, at 12, at 13, or at 14. So this is a huge nerf to her. There are things that she simply cannot punish now. And if we're going to keep talking about punishment, I think she might have the worst punishment of any character in this game. Because all you get for 10 is this. This used to be pretty good. You know, 19 damage is not high, but you get advantage and you can go into Scarecrow with a lot of advantage. And that sort of thing, 10-frame block punisher into significant mix-up stance with advantage, pretty strong in previous games. These days, not really anymore. I mean, look at Leo, for example, can do exactly this. off of a jab that is much more powerful. It's got better range, is much more solid for poking and range. Get more damage, and King K now with the new improved King K mix-up. And you have all kinds of characters that will hit you like 3 times for 27 damage and get like +5. Like I think Victor has that, for example. All the Michimas, and we have a billion of those in this game, have the Flash Punch combo. This just doesn't really compete anymore. And then you have 13, which is this, the old classic. Still doesn't knock down. It does ballerina spin, so it will still give you wall splat. But it is, you know, just not a very powerful option for 13 either. And now nothing for 14, and then this for 15. So very, very weak. Let's go to while standing punishment. In 7, she had probably the weakest while standing punishment in the game. Very weak in the legs, and you could really abuse Zafina by attacking her with a lot of low pokes, right? So you have while standing 4 for 11. It's 14 damage, which I think is below average, and +4, which as far as I know is also below average. So it's not a very good while standing 4. I mean, it's okay. It's pretty standard. And then she used to have nothing until 15, which is crazy, right? Nothing for 12, 13, or 14. She has this for 15 still, and it is a good launcher. The only new thing that they've given her is the while standing 3, which is a 12. Gives you advantage and Scarecrow again. They're trying to push you into Scarecrow after punishment, right? How powerful Scarecrow really is, you know, is debatable. I think the stance is emphasized in her current design, but underpowered. But we'll get to that as well. So, probably the weakest punishment of any character. Let's talk about some of the very important Zafina moves that have been heavily nerfed. First of all, this thing, Scarecrow 1+2, one of her best moves and most important moves in the previous game. Good for a bunch of reasons. First of all, it used to do 28 damage, it now does 20. It doesn't even spark anymore, which is why it doesn't feel good to hit with anymore. So it's a reduction of the damage by almost a third. They've reduced the tracking of the move, so it's much more linear, and this is the really crazy part, they've just flat out removed the counter hit launch property. So this move is less than half as good as it was before. This move is much, much worse. Do you guys agree so far? I'm not looking at the chat. This is a YouTube video. But yeah, this move is much, much, much worse right now. So that's one thing. 1+2, her most important, like, sort of low ground hitting mid. It's one of her best counter hit tools and whiff punishers. This first hit has gone from 20 damage down to 17, so significant damage nerf right there. Her armor move back 3, which used to be completely safe on block, is now -14, so significantly punishable on block. They've added more power to it and allowed it to knock down, which will give it wall splatting capabilities. You might like that. Personally, I think it's a pretty hard nerf, because the way I like to use this move was when I needed one more hit to win the round and I had a life advantage. I could throw this because it was safe, and if the opponent swung at all, I just closed the round out. It was very, very good for that, but now it's way too risky, and you're going to eat damage for using this. So I think it's, you know, some people might like it. I think it's a pretty hard nerf to the move. We can talk about some of the moves that have just flat out been removed from Zafina. This is something I didn't notice until this morning, but I went into her move list and I'm like, wait a minute, this seems shorter. Like, this move list seems a lot shorter, and a bunch of moves are just gone. Her famous back 1+2, which is the, you know, crazy crushing low, that was like a threatening round ender sort of a low poke, doesn't exist anymore. You can do it from Scarecrow, and they've improved it, giving it a little bit of a counter hit property now, so that's cool, I guess, but having it outside of Scarecrow is so much more important. So a massive, massive nerf. In Mantis, you remember that 3-4-3 low, low, low string where she could mix the final hit with a mid? That string is completely gone. It just doesn't exist anymore. Now if you do 3 from Mantis, you get her old down 3 instead. So that string is just gone. I used that quite a lot. I thought it was good, but it's gone. Scarecrow 3-3 is gone. This mid-high, which used to be Scarecrow 3 forward 3, is now the only extension to this move that you have, which means that it is unmixable now. and the opponent, yeah, doesn't have to worry about you mixing the high and the mid, which was very powerful at the wall. You play somebody good in Tekken 7, you go into Scarecrow and you just did, you know, 3-3, 3-3, 3-3, and they kept ducking looking for the high, and you could massacre them for an entire round just mixing that. And then when they got tired, you know, you splat them with this and you got big damage, and it was sick. It's gone. Up forward 1+2, which is the jumping move where she jumped into Tarantula. It's the move that they turned into her new tactics in the old game. Completely gone. She doesn't have that transition anymore. That was one of my favorite moves to close out rounds as well. When the clock was running out and somebody ran in to threaten you, jumping into that thing and then ending up in Tarantula was really good. It's just gone. So those moves don't exist anymore. Heavy nerfs to the key moves that she does use. And now I want to get to the really important part, right? I want to talk about what is going on with the general design of Zafina and how they want you to play her, how she's supposed to function, what kind of a character she is in this game. And it goes back to that thing I said earlier of you buff or add one thing, you take away another. There's this constant give and take when you're balancing Tekken moves and characters. Well, if you want to find out how your character is supposed to be played in this game, a hint is looking at how their heat mechanic works, because usually their key moves are tied into a heat gimmick, and that is sort of what you should use to your advantage when you play your character. So for example, Leo has an install, basically a power-up token that can be used on very good mix-ups. Elisa gets empowered chainsaw moves that are good for chip damage on block and so on. With Zafina, what they've done is they've added 3 new moves, 1 from each stance, and they're all the notation down forward 1. And what happens when you go into heat with her is these moves become armored, which might sound cool. Problem is the moves aren't very good, as far as I can tell at least. I mean, they're powerful, they just don't really do that much. The other thing is, if you do these moves without heat, they cost health. If you look at your health bar up there, Zafina is spending health doing these moves, recoverable health. The same is true for every single move in her move list that uses the hand. So your reversal, the Cursed Crow, same thing there, if you activate the Just Frame. Okay, so if you put a disadvantage like something costing health onto a move, then obviously that move needs to be powerful in other ways to make up for that, and now you have a cool niche for your character. I think what they've done here with Zafina is they've added these moves and given you absolutely no incentive to use them whatsoever, because they do low damage and they just don't really have amazing properties overall. So why would you go around spending your own health on stuff that you don't really need or want to use anyway? The best way to illustrate this would really be combos, right? Because you can use these moves in combos. You're kind of supposed to. They show up in her sample combos and everything. So if you remember Zafina's old standard combo that she did in the old game, this move is no longer a spin move. So we're now going to spin with either Scarecrow 4, down forward 4-2, or the new Scarecrow down forward 1, which again costs health. So your new standard combo ends up looking something like this. And then you can get the Cursed Crow right there. I spaghettied it a little bit. The reason for that being is you have to adjust to the recovery time of this spin. The recovery is quite slow, so the dash up is a little bit finicky. Just takes a couple of days, and then you're going to have that down. So, okay, 65 damage without no wall conversion capability might seem okay. It's kind of what you got in the past. It's low for this game. But if you start adding these like new claw moves to the combos, for example, you spin like this, and then you end your combo like this, you actually end up with less damage than you would get if you didn't do the health sacrifice moves, right? Or if you did less of them. Remember, this move right here, the Cursed Crow, and the reversal, these moves did the exact same things. The Cursed Crow does the exact amount of damage that it did in the past, but in the past it did not cost health, which means that they are strictly nerfed. They've added a property that makes them weaker because you have to sacrifice health to use them. But why would you do it when you can do pretty much, equally damaging combos without using these moves? I mean, the incentive just doesn't really seem to be there. And so what you're left with is a character where you're kind of going to want to activate your heat and then stance mix up. And because you get armor on these moves when you're in the stances, or in heat I mean, it's more difficult for your opponent to challenge your stance because you could armor through them. Now, presumably because the moves are quite slow, 24 frames, you're very susceptible to counter hit lows right here because those break armor, which could be very, very dangerous. Again, I don't think the moves are great overall, but that kind of becomes her niche. It's also important to note that when you use one of these hand moves while in heat, some characters, they do their heat gimmick and they gain heat back. Zafina actually spends her and a chunk of it disappears. So you're only going to be able to use 2 of these realistically before it's gone. And they only do 30 damage apiece. So very, very weak in my opinion. Very weak. The only other thing that she can do is we saw that she can do an empowered, because you have your heat crash in heat, right? Which is, it looks like this. And all characters have a version of this. Zafina actually has an additional version from Scarecrow. And it looked like it was going to be a powerful, low-hitting launcher when we saw it in the previews. And it's like, damn, that's really cool. Turns out it's not a launcher at all. You can't really get any sort of combo here. As far as I can tell, and I might be missing something, the best thing you can get here for a damage follow-up is just a stomp. And you end up at 41 damage. So, everybody else with heat go into massive lows that, I mean, Leo's sweep, for example, the empowered sweep can be done multiple times during heat, and then the install persists after heat ends, and Leo can keep doing them, which is, amazing. Whereas Zafina gets this, and it just kind of meh, So it's kind of like, what were they thinking? What am I missing here? What's the thing that's supposed to carry this character now that everything she can do is weaker and everybody else is better, right? I don't know what I'm missing. But let's talk about some of the pretty cool and significant buff that she has gotten. The slash kick now transitions into Scarecrow, which means that you can pressure with that, even at close range, with the new ease of access version of instant while running. And then mix, which is kind of cool. You have this new move, which is while running 1+2, which gives you advantage on block in Tarantula. It's kind of cool. You can use it for a combo ender. You have a new, improved boom boom final hit of your down forward 1 string, which is one of your best strings that you use a lot. Let's see if we can show it here. You can tell that's been made more powerful, or maybe not even really. Maybe it used to do 20 damage. It just has that knockback property a little bit more. And that's sort of what I can find in terms of what has gotten better. She still has the down 3, of course. Counter hit combo has gotten really awkward. I haven't found something optimal here, but her combos in general are just lower damage and poorer. I can show you some of her old key launchers and how they've gotten worse. Remember this armored thing here? What an awesome massive combo this used to give you. First of all, they've removed the option of staying in Scarecrow after this. And I don't understand, I understand if you want to add options, but I don't know why you want to take options away, because the player could choose. So if you wanted to not be in Scarecrow, you had that option before. Now you don't have an option. And it's almost as if Namco are scared that people are going to pick her up and then not understand that they can cancel the stand somehow. And if you're that worried about people having to spend a second learning a single thing about your game, and that's who you're developing for, maybe you're developing a game for, scrup men. But what do I know? This thing used to be super powerful. Now, I mean, you're not going to get super significant damage off of this. I mean, it's just so much lower. You could probably do something like this, the old classic, right? Yeah, 61, yippee. This 442, by the way, I forgot to mention, is not a counter hit launcher anymore. That used to be really good. Just doesn't happen anymore. There are other nerfs that I've forgotten to talk about. The only really strong, solid thing that you had with her that you still have unimpeded is 444. So this is essentially your neutral with the character now. Really, really weak. And just to sort of show you, emphasize how like 61 damage or 64 damage and, you know, a loss of health, just to show you how weak that is. Let's like jump on another character that doesn't necessarily specialize in combo damage, like Elisa, and show you how combos have been power crept in this game for comparison. I just want to do that quickly because I know a lot of people haven't bought the game yet and they haven't jumped in, and I think it's an important perspective to have. So 15 frame hop kick, right? You can just easily with Elisa right now do something like this. And you're going to get 70 plus damage off your hop kick, right? The down forward 2. Safe, launcher with the same impact speed as Zafina's down forward 2. Even if you don't do an optimal combo with this, you can get much, much higher damage than Zafina. And it seems to be true for like a majority of characters in the roster, and the combos are more convertible and everything else as well. So her damage is just overall low. So like to summarize, Zafina seems to have some of, if not the weakest block punishment of any character in the game. Some of, if not the weakest overall damage of any character in the game. A heat mechanic that seems to almost impede her more than it helps her. Possibly a nerfed movement, which was her big selling point in previous games, but again, I'm not sure about that one, so take it with a grain of salt. And then overall massive nerfs to her most important moves in her overall package, right? So I think that makes her basically trashy, please change the character in this game. That's how I feel, and I don't see how I could be wrong. I mean, the nerfs are so massive. So what were they thinking? Why is this happening? Well, I think a lot of people thought that Zafina was very good in the previous game, and maybe it's good that she's being toned down. Personally, I think she was overvalued, and she was probably more like high mid. And then you had some very, very good players like Arslan Ash winning major tournaments using her. But I happen to think that, first of all, looking at one person who is very, very unique, and balancing a character that's going to be used by thousands of people across the world based on that is very, very poor decision making for a balancing team. I mean, she isn't going to be used by thousands of people in her current state. I would be surprised if anybody uses this character during Tekken 8. I also heard that they did her dirty in the story. I'm not going to spoil anything. Well, I don't know because I haven't played the story, but I heard that there's an indication in story mode that she won't be showing up in future games. So why would you like make one of the coolest looking, like most creative character designs in fighting games and then just deliver her dead on arrival? I don't know. And we have plenty of other characters who were crazy good in Tekken 7 who didn't get crazy nerfed. Claudio had a bit of a renaissance like in the late lifespan of Tekken 7 and was showing up as a serious tournament character and everything, and he's more powerful than ever. Let's not talk about like the protagonistas down here, dude. I mean, you can get max rank in this game with Jin playing with one pinky. I mean, they're so much better. And Zafina is not only has she not improved to the same extent, she's worse as far as I can tell than she was before. So if you have more information, cool things you want to show me about her that I missed, let me know. I'm going to play her anyway because I love this character. She's special to me, and then I'm just going to hold out and hope for buffs. But yeah, that's why I think Zafina is trashy in this game, and you should probably change the character. Personally, I've been playing a lot of Elisa. She's been power crept in cool ways and is awesome right now. And today I'm gonna try and learn some Victor as well. All right, that's it for the video. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you guys again very soon.